Hello guys, so welcome back to part B of the other video where we are creating a REST API using task managing for users. And in the previous video we set up and we did a lot of user routes like register, get user by ID, delete user and update user. And for this video I want us to focus on the to-dos handler, on the task handler I mean. So we can start by creating a task handler.go. Then we're going to say package, because it's a package of handlers. And then we're going to create our first function, create task, enter gene.context. Now for this create task, let us look at the models and see what we need. Now remember, we're supposed to add a user ID here because each user should be associated with their ID, which is going to be a primitive .object ID. Then we have JSON and say user underscore ID. Yes, so we're going to have this, and yeah, so let us now get started. And this approach, actually there's no much difference with the user handler. The only difference here is that we are doing a lot of hashing of passwords. So let's get started. So we can start by defining our task. We're going to say models.task. And then we're going to bind this into JSON. If err, go to c dot should bind JSON, and then we're going to bind the task. And then we're going to say if we have an error, if error is equal to nil. Sorry, this is supposed to be that one. If error is not equal to nil, we're going to return a JSON with the http dot status bad request, and then we're going to return the message to the user telling that hey, we have a problem binding error, and then we have to do something. Now we're going to deal with something called validation, because we want to introduce validators, because we want to make sure that the data that we're storing in our database is following a certain format. So in your case, we can decide to validate maybe the title, you can decide to validate the description and the status. So what you're going to do here, we're going to come here to our, going to create a new folder, and then we can call it helpers, and then here we can add validators.go. We're going to have a package of helpers, then we can say func validate, maybe what are we going to validate, or is it a task? You can maybe we don't want a title of less than maybe 3 characters or maybe 5. That's a sample. So validate title. Now our title is a string, so we can say title, which is a string, and then we're going to say if the length of title is less than maybe 5, we're going to return errors dot new. Then we're going to say title cannot be less than 5 characters. Titles cannot be less than, okay, title errors dot new, title cannot be less than 5 characters. What is too many done variables? Okay, supposed to return an error here. And then we return nil. Another thing we can do here, we can also validate this status so that they can maybe follow a certain variable. So we can, if the status the user is providing is not within that standard, then we can say maybe we need a certain status. If it's not that one, then we're going to require you to provide that. So you can say validate status, then we can say status, and then we can define an array of valid status, then we can provide an array of course string. Then we can say status, the only status we need, maybe it's pending, either pending or maybe in progress, and completed. And then we can say, of course, we're going to loop through them. Then we're going to say for, we're going to provide a for loop. We don't need this, you can just do that for the status. I'm going to provide a range valid status. Then I'm going to say if s equals to status I'm going to return a nil. So the status, so this one, of course, when we're looping, it's going to return this and this and this. So if these are part of this, then don't return any error. Otherwise, I'm going to return errors.new, and then we say invalid status provided. Okay, now we are done with our so we can now come here. So we are going to start our validation. Let us validate. Let's say we can validate our status, and then we're going to say, remember, in our handlers we should return capitalized. Okay. So we're going to come here and say r equals to helpers dot validate status. Validate status is going to be task dot status. Okay, so if r is not equal to nil, then we're going to return a JSON http dot status bad request. We're going to say gin.h. There is an error. Then we're going to say return the error. Error. So that is, this one is if the status provided is not the one that is not on our list, then we're going to return this error to the user. Otherwise, if the status is fine, then we can proceed to save. So we're going to supply the task ID and the rest. So we're going to say task.id equals to primitive.new object ID, and then we're going to save it. So we're going to have utils.db.database, then os.get.env, then we have db.name, then .collection. Now collection is tasks, and then .insert1. Then we're going to have a context.background, and then we're going to do task. Okay. After that, if it's successful, if there is r equals to nil, then we're going to say c.json http.status internal server error gin.h. We're going to return an error if the insert was not successful, so we can say failed to create task, and then we return. And then if it was successful, of course we're going to return a JSON. We're going to tell the user that, hey, we've created a success status created. Then we're going to return a gin.h. You can say message, and then we're going to say task created successfully. Okay, so we have validated the status, provided an ID. Of course, if you also wanted to validate, because you can also validate the title. You can also validate the title. For now, you can just leave it there. So we're going to come back to the routes, and then we can just try and separate this and say users routes. Then we can come here and say tasks routes. Then we can copy one of these, and then we come here and say, hey, we want to post. Then we have a task, and then handlers.create task. So let's try doing that. It's on our app so that we can create some tasks. Wow. Yes, we successfully ran it. Then we can come to our HTTP, and then now we can, of course, we can get the users. We have only one user, so let's create a new request. Let's create a new request. Let me just copy this. Then we come here, we paste it. Then we're talking about task. Then we're going to post. We come to body text. Then we're going to have this. So here we have for the task, we have a title. We have a title, of course we can say maybe title 1. We have a description. We can say description 1. Description 1. And then we have status. Now we have a list of status. It can either be completed. So I'm just gonna be using, let's try and use done. A status that I know is not there. And then we have a user ID. So we're going to come back here and get the user ID. And then we come back here, we provide the user ID. Now we can try posting this and see if it's going to give us an error. Cannot unmarshal into of the length must be 24. Error invalid status provided. Bad request. You see the invalid status ID into object ID. Okay. But let's debug this now and understand what the problem is. Cannot unmarshal into must be the length of must be 24, but it is 23. I think I deleted some text. These are 2 at the end. And these are 2 here. Yeah, now that's how you debug code. Okay, invalid status because done is not part of the status. So let's try putting an actual good status. Invalid status because we have completed, in progress, and pending. So let's put pending. Task created successful. Let's create the second one. Task 2. We can say completed. Here we can add another task 3. Task the description 3. And let it just be pending. Yep, so we have successfully added 4 tasks. Great. Now let us add more routes. Task handler. So we can come. This one is for creating a new task. Creating a new task. So we can come here and say getting all tasks. So we can create a function to get tasks. See margin dot context. Okay, no space. Get context. So now we're going to get. Now it has no big difference with this, so I'm just going to copy this approach. This one here. Then I'm just going to change some few things. So I'm just going to paste that db name. Now this one is going to be tasks. db name, this is tasks. Error failed to load tasks. Then instead of users, here we're going to have tasks, and then we're going to have models.task. This is going to be tasks. Error passing tasks. We're going to return tasks, and we're good to go. Tasks. Now this is forgetting tasks. We can add another one, forgetting get tasks by ID. So you can just still use this one, task by ID. And then we just update the details. This is how you save time while you're coding. Okay, I can just copy the whole of it so that I can just edit it. Okay, so get task by ID. So we're going to invalid. So here we're going to have task valid task ID, and then user we can change that, so we can say task, then models dot task. So here just a minute, I have to make sure that this is tasks. This one is supposed to be tasks, then ID is going to be task ID, and then this is going to be to do. We're decoding a task, not a to do, a task. Then you can just come and say task not found. What else can we do? So we can get task, all tasks, we can get task by ID. Yeah, we can update and delete as well. So I can just as well copy this to delete user and update user, so that you can have so we can now delete user. So this is not going to be user, it's going to be task. Going to be delete task. This is not a user ID, it's supposed to be task ID. Task ID, valid task ID. This should be task ID. This should be task deleted successfully. Yeah, I think I'm done with that. So this is just basically to save your time when you're writing code task, but you have to be very careful and testing, because might get into trouble because you might forget to update something. So you have to make sure that you have tested it thoroughly in valid ID format. Now we're updating user, updating task, updating task. Can just do that. Update task. Make sure we're dealing with tasks, not users. Tasks fail to update task. This should be task. Okay. Yes, so we have gotten that. So we're going to go back to the routes. Update our routes. So now we have get can get all tasks. So handlers.get tasks, then we can get task by ID. That can get task by ID, then you can update a task. You can update a task, of course. When updating, you need to provide an ID. So this is going to be put, and then eventually you can delete a task. You can delete a task. Okay, yeah, I think I got that right. We can delete task. So those are the various routes. Okay, now let's do this. Let's test our routes. Now let's try and get tasks. Let's get tasks. Yeah, we can get the tasks. I can see they are done pretty well. Another thing we can test is we can get a task by ID. So we can do that, and then we get task by ID. Good. Now let's try and change this. Task not found. Let's delete that. Valid task ID, so it's working. Now let's update task. We can maybe update some of the details. Let's try and update the title. Turn this title into capital. Then it's title 1. Let's update it. So that you can see that the update function is working. Invalid character. Oh, it's supposed to be there. Task updated successfully. Let's get it to confirm that it's been updated. Yeah, the title has been updated. What else have we not dealt with? Deleting. Let's try deleting this task. And task has been deleted successfully. Let's try getting it. Yeah, it's not found because we've deleted it. Let's find out if it's totally deleted. Yes, so the task has been successfully deleted. So all our routes are working fine. Good. Now, there's one last thing about task that I want us to cover. When you're working with tasks, or maybe users, or any long data that you're going to encounter, in most cases, you're going to encounter a case whereby you're going to have hundreds or thousands of records, and in most cases, it's not advisable to grab the entire data, like 1,000 or even 100,000 records, to just drop it to the front end. What you should do is backend pagination. So let us do that. Let us get tasks by pagination. So one thing you should know about backend pagination is that you're going to have to provide the number of tasks that you want to be delivered to the front end, that is the limit, and then the backend will do its thing. It will calculate the total tasks and so on, and then it will be delivering it in given batches. If you give it a limit of 10, 20, 100, it's going to be delivering 100, 100, 100. So that's what I want us to do. So we can create that function. You can say get tasks paginated. Get tasks paginated. Then we can do that gene.context. So this link, what will happen is we're going to provide, let's say it's going to be maybe v1 /API. Maybe we can say tasks paginated, and then you're going to say page equals to 1, and maybe limit equals to maybe 10. All these things. So we have to grab this and then we do that in the front end. So what we're going to do is how we're going to grab it. So let's do this. So we're going to first define our page. Now, one thing you should know is this information is going to be as a string, but then you have to convert it into integers. So that's why you're doing str.conv dot should be loaded dot and then c.default query, plus the query parameters, and then I'm defining default so that if they are not provided by default, these are going to be the query parameters. And then for the limit, we're going to do that as well. We don't want to handle the error, but you can do that. So I'm putting a dash here, it's going to return the page. When you hover over it, you can see it's giving you so it's going to return the page number, the page, and the error. .atoy. Yeah, this is what I was telling about int, this is an integer and an error. Then I'm applying a string. So c default query. In the default query, we're going to have the limit, and then we are putting a limit of 10. Now, when we are supplying the options, as you're going to see, the options are going to be these ones are now integers, or page integers. So we're going to provide the options. We're going to create options for creating the pages. For the find options, that is, we're going to create find options for the database. We're going to create for the database, for the tasks in the DB. Okay, so our find options, can do that. Going to be options dot find. That's how you define options dot find. Dot set skip. Now we need to define the skip. This is how we define the skip. The skip is going to be the page minus 1, then multiply by the limit. Define the skip, but now skip accept an integer of 64-bit. So that means and this one here is not an integer, it's just a normal integer. So you have to convert this to an int of 64. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick that. You're going to say 64. Then we're going to paste that. So that we're going to say skip, define our skip. And then we have also to set the limit. The limit also accepts an int of 64 bits. So what is going to happen here is you have to convert the limit to int64 as well. So we can just come here and say limit int64 and say int 64, and then you provide the limit. So we're going to come here, say limit 64. Now you have to take note, this only applies like this way of setting. When you're using the previous MongoDB, you could have defined options differently, like find options. Then you could do something like options.find, something like that, and then you could add options.set and whatever. But in this version 2, that doesn't work. So this is how you do that. Then you're going to define your cursor, and then your air going to be utils db database os.getMV, your database name. Then you're going to set your collection, because it's tasks. Then find. You're going to supply the context background, and then you're going to provide the bson.m. Of course, it's going to be empty. Then you're going to apply your find options. And then now we can handle this error, so that if we don't have an issue, if error is not equal to nil, we are going to return a JSON, of course, http.status internal error, internal server error, eugene.h. Then we have the error. Then we're going to say failed to fetch tasks. Failed to fetch tasks. And we're going to return. And then we're going to defer cursor dot close. Let's apply the context dot background. Now we have defined our options. We are searching the database based on these options. Now we need to start handling how we're going to present the information. So we can first calculate the number of to-dos and how we're going to present it, the format you're going to present it with. So we're going to say var tasks models.task. Then we can say if r equals to cursor. Now we're going to process it .all. Then we're going to provide the context, and then we're going to get the tasks. Then we're going to say r is not equal to nil, and we're going to return a JSON of failed to load to-dos. So you can just copy this you can say failed to decode tasks. Of course, we are decoding the tasks because using this cursor here that we have defined, we are fetching it, and then we are decoding based on this schema here that we are going to supply it. Then now we can count all to-dos, all tasks. Then we can say total, and then we're going to return the error. We're going to say utils. Let me just get this. And then we're going to say that utils, then that task, then that count documents, context that background, and then bson dot m. Because we are counting just all documents, we're just going to leave it blank. Otherwise, if you want to count maybe by the number or whatever, we could just do that. Okay, now we're going to get the total, and then we're going to handle the error. If error is not equal to nil, then we're going to just return a JSON, and then we're going to say error failed to count tasks. So the total pages is going to be given by int total. Of course, we have to divide by the limit. Plus the limit -1, and divide by the limit. That's how you calculate the total pages. And then now we return the JSON. Let's see that JSON http status okay, status okay, then gene.h, we're going to return the tasks, if there are any tasks, and then you're going to return the pagination details now. And the pagination, we're going to have a gene.h as well. Then you're going to have current page, is going to be page, total pages, is going to be total pages, and then we're going to have total tasks, we're going to have total, and then we can also return the limit. And then we are done. So let's add this to our routes. And then we see how it works. So we have, let's say, tasks paginated. So we're going to get tasks paginated. Then let's see how this works. Let's test it now and see if the pagination is working. we're going to get the tasks. Now let's come here, we say tasks paginated without supplying anything. We say current page 1 total limit is 10 because we started the default. So we can come here and say maybe page equals to 1 and limit equals to 1. We have to, so observe what will happen here to get the number of pages. So now we have two number of pages, total tasks is 2, current page 1, so that if we get like and see page 2 limit 1, we're going to see the next task. It's limit 1, we're going to see the next task. So this can be used by the front-end guys to do the information. Okay, now so we have created several. Of course, there is more information you can get about the task. You can count the tasks. You can maybe get task by user ID. Of course, now the user ID, you're just going to come here and this is going to be user underscore ID, and then you're going to grab the user ID from the parameters and you're good to go. So for now, I think we can cover there, but now one most important thing that we have not done is that this information can be accessed by anyone. So we have to implement authentication, and in this case we're just going to use JWT authentication. So we have to install a package called JWT. So we can just go to Google and then we search for JWT so that we can just grab this, the first one here. Let's install JWT, then we go get okay, install JWT. Now we are going to come to the utils and then we are going to add jwt.go. Then we're going to have a package of utils, and then we're going to create a func called generate token, which is going to accept a user ID because it's a primitive object ID. Then it's going to return a string and an error, of course, in case there's an error. Okay, and then we're going to also have another function called validate token. It's going to get a token which is a string, and this one is going to return a jwt.token or an error. Now let us implement this now. So under generate token, we want when a user logs in, we should give them a token. And then they are going to, this is supposed to be version 5. We're going to give them a token. So we're going to define our claims. It's going to be jwt.map claims. Okay, here we're just going to supply the user underscore ID, which is going to be the user ID, then we're going to also provide the expiration date. Expiration date using time dot now dot add time dot hour 72 hours. It's going to expire after 72 hours. Of course, you can update this depending on how you want it to be. Then we're going to generate a token using JWT .new with claims, and then we're going to submit JWT.sign signing method HS256. These are signing methods. They are very mean. But first we're going to use this one using the claims, and then we are going to return token dot signed string. Then we supply the JWT secret. Now this is going to require a secret, which is the key. So we're going to come to our env file, and then we're going to say JWT secret, which is going to be my secret, and choose anything you want. JWT secret, so we can say, we can define JWT secret here, then we can say JWT secret is going to be byte os.get env JWT secret. So we're going to get the JWT secret, then we're going to use it here. Okay, good. So validating the token, we're going to get the token that we've created there. So we're going to get the token, which is going to return an error to JWT.pass token. Now let me just change this to this token string. So token string, which is going to be a func of token. Just make this token, and then we're going to do that. So if we'll just do that, okay, then token dot method dot JWT dot signing method matchmark. But these will just find them in their website, so don't worry so much about them. Just get them from the website. Okay, then we're going to return nil, or we're going to return errors. It's new unexpected signing method. Then we're going to return JWT secret or nil. Now let's handle this error. So if there's an error, the error is equal to nil, I'm going to return nil or error, and then we're going to return token or error. So that's how you validate a token. All this approach, like these signing methods, there are very many. You'll find them on the website of this package here, JWT. So that's how you validate token, and that's how you generate a token. Now, so we need to define our login handler, because token can only be generated when you log in. So now we are going to go back to our users handler, and we are going to define a login update user details, user login handler. So we're going to say func login dot context. Because when you're logging in, I want the user based on these models, and the user supply the username and the password. So that's what we're going to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the user details, that is their input. After getting their input, we have to compare it with what is in the database. After doing the comparison, then we're going to, if it's correct, we can let them in and give them a token. Otherwise, we're not going to give them a token. So let's see. So this login login data is just going to be the users. It's going to be the users login, that is the details they are supplying. The details they are for supplying. So whenever we supply details, we have to bind them to JSON. Should bind JSON. We should convert them to JSON. That's why we are binding them. Login data, and then if there is an error is not equal to nil, then we're going to say, hey, couldn't change your data, you couldn't bind your data to JSON. Status bad request engine.h error, and then I'm going to say error dot error. Yeah, so if we cannot bind your input to JSON, then I'm going to tell you that we can't. Then we're going to define a var user models.user. Now this guy is coming from the DB now. Air equals to utils, and just grab it from here instead of writing it all of it. Can grab that from here. And then dot find one. Supply the context. Dot background. Context dot background. And then bson dot m. Now, as I was telling you earlier, most of the time we are leaving this to be empty because we weren't really interested in grabbing anything. But now we are finding these people based on the username. So login data dot username, finding the username, and then we have to decode them based on the model. Okay, finding based on what they have inputted, and then we can invalidate them. So if r is not equal to nil, going to return a JSON telling them, hey, we have an issue finding you. We don't have your details. We don't have you in the database. Otherwise, if we find you in the database, we're going to compare the passwords using bcrypt. Okay, so we're going to compare. If we find you bcrypt but compare hashed password, then we're going to do a byte, then we get the user dot password, we compare it with whatever has been supplied. Login data dot password. Too many arguments. Compare password. Okay, it's supposed to be like this, and then good. So if you can't compare it, you can say if r is not equal to nil, then you're going to say, hey, invalid credentials, username or password. Going to say, hey, it's invalid credentials. Okay, there should be a return here. There should also be a return here. And then now we're going to say, so if your passwords don't match, then invalid credentials. Otherwise, we're going to generate a token for you. Generate a token for you. So we're going to say token, also returns an error. Then we're going to say utils. It is a generate token, and then it takes a user ID, user.id, gets the user ID. And if error, we handle the errors. Then we're going to say, hey, having an issue generating a token, failed to generate a token. Yep, so we can maybe say, okay, let's just leave it at that, and then we can say the JSON http dot status, okay, and then we're going to tell you, hey, we have successfully logged you in, and here is your token. Yay. Here is your token. Undefined status, okay. That's supposed to be capital here. Status, okay. Alright. Now we have to define this. So we're going to come here to the routes. Then we're going to say post login handlers dot login. We're going to login user. Okay. So we have successfully created a way whereby a user can log in. So we want to ensure that this login is going to be useful. So we can maybe say want to turn some, because all these routes anybody can access them. So we want to create protected routes. So you can come here and say protected routes. Okay, so we're going to come here at going to create an auth middleware that can be used to prevent users from accessing certain routes unless they are authenticated. So under helpers, we can create an auth.go. Come and say package helpers, of course. Then you can say func auth middleware. Auth middleware, which is going to be a gene dot handler func. Okay, so what we're going to return is this. We're going to check if when you try to access a certain route, we're going to check the authorization header. Okay, for those people who have done some backend, you'll understand, like, you want to check the authorization header. For example, let me take you to, this is my HTTP. So when you come here, we have the parameters, we have the headers, we have the auth. So auth, we have basic auth, bearer auth, and so on. I'm going to use the bearer token. So it's going to check does this token exist. If there is a token, yeah, we're going to check has it expired. If it has expired, no, because as you can see here in the login we have supplied a token. We generate a token, but then we also validate it. Okay, when you come to the JWT, we generate a token and we are validating it, so to ensure that if a token exists, has it expired or not. That's what I mean by the validation. So yes, so let's come and create this auth middleware. So it's going to check, do you have an authorization header? So we can say auth header, then we check it, see get header, then you provide the authorization. If auth header equals to empty, that means if it's not there, we are going to say, we're going to abort dot status unauthorized. Then we're going to say gene dot h error. Then I'm going to say authorization header is missing. Okay, and then we're going to abort. And then we return. Otherwise, when we get a token string, because it's going to be having a bearer token, so we're going to trim prefix of the header, bearer, because of saying using bearer token, it's going to trim the bearer. So we're going to have a token. Okay, each token is returning by a bearer and then the token itself at the front. That's why we have to trim it. So you're going to have a token and then an error, and then you're going to utils dot validate. So if we get a token, we have to validate it. Validate token string. Yeah, we validate. So if we don't get an error, we need it, but if we get it, we have to validate it to ensure that it has not expired. Okay. Yes. So we can handle this error. Say if error not equal to nil, then we can just do the same as this. It has failed authorization. So now either the token is invalid token or expired. Either token is invalid or it has expired. Okay. After all that, if it is valid, now we can allow the user. Okay. So I'm going to say if claims okay, then token dot claims dot jwt dot map claims. You say okay, and token is valid. If token is valid, c dot set user, because it has accepted user ID, and then the claims user underscore ID with a double quote. Otherwise else, going to abort. Else we're going to abort unauthorized. You're not authorized. Else you are unauthorized. So this is a very simple auth middleware. It checks whether you have provided the authorization. If it's not there, it will tell you that it's missing and it's going to abort it there. If it gets a token string, it's going to remove the bearer, and then it's going to validate it. If it has expired, it will tell you. If it's invalid, it will tell you. Otherwise, it will consider you unauthorized. So now we can come here at the routes, and then you can create a protected route. So you can just say protected, and we can just call it private. And then we come and say API dot group and then we say we can just maybe pick, let's say, okay, let's just pick an example of this one. Then we come and say protected private dot get users. Then now we apply dot use helpers dot auth middleware. Yeah, now let's try this out. Now let us try this route, because now it needs you to be logged in to get the users. So let's find out if this is going to work. So let's start our app. us find our app. So let us try this one. This one is going to work. Now let's try getting users, because that's the first route we have. Authorized invalid token or expired. Okay. Now let's log in. Let's come to login, and then we're going to supply the body with the username. Username and the password. So we can say username user1, and then password. Password was user234. Going to be a post request login. Not documenting results because there's nothing like user. I think it's supposed to be like that. No document. Okay. Let's create a user. Let's register a user. The user was created. Now let's log in. We have gotten a token. Let's get the token. Now to make sure that it's working, let's try and get users. It will refuse. Then let's come and get tasks. It will give us the tasks. Let's go back to users, and then we come and provide the token. It will work because we have supplied the token. Now let me try to change this and see. Yes, it's working. Good. If you try to distort it, it will tell you that it is invalid. So guys, I think that's it for this video, and I think there's more you can do, but the rest I believe you can just play around with this. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.